So, Buzz, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining me. It feels like an age since we've been speaking for many years, generally about design work, and I've been speaking to you about job hunts in the past from a personal perspective, and probably no doubt trying to pitch you in terms of getting people into your teams. But now we are here to talk about you and the podcast and some of the topics we've got to talk about today, specifically around design leadership, the design industry, which of course you've been in for, well, a few years. I won't give away your age because we've just discussed that. But can you give us a history in terms of your background, how you got into design, and then up to where you are today?
Okay. Well, let's give away the age so that people have got a frame of reference. I'll be 50 next year,
Yeah.
which is obviously causing some time to reflect.
Yeah.
So I'll try and give you a few bits and pieces that people might not get if they stalked me on LinkedIn. How about that? How did I get into design? Well, I had a great inspirational start point, which was my father. He's an architect.
Okay.
And so I would always admire him on his draftsman table, doing things by hand, and just seeing the kind of care and quality of craft. And so that was very inspiring. And of course, also having a mother who's very practical and craft, like wonderful seamstress and so on. So the act of making and building was there right from an early age, which I suppose in some ways is quite typical of any designer. You're taking things apart, understanding them, how they work, what the materials can do, and try and replicate it yourself. So I suppose I had a very blessed childhood, really, having a workshop at home and a nice big garden with build tree houses and get very practical.
You were that child taking things apart, were you?
Yeah, Lego.
Yeah.
We didn't have a TV.
Yeah.
It was just like, no, let's not have any of that. And then, of course, computers became more accessible. And I well remember getting our first family computer, an Amstrad CPC 6128. I can still remember that.
Yeah.
And of course, that opened up a different kind of world. But I wouldn't say I was like a boffin or anything like that. I just wanted to understand it as another medium. And then we got an Acorn Archimedes, which was the kind of the GUI point and click kind of interface that you see on Apple Macs and so on. But no one really heard of the Acorn computers, but they were amazing. And right at that time, early teenager, getting into those. So, desktop publishing came out and you could hook up a printer and you could start doing your own stuff and output these things at a professional grade. So we got the itch, and a friend of mine at school got one as well, and we started doing the first school newspaper.
Nice.
So that was one of the things. But right at that time, schools were doing work experiences, and that was my first experience with an Apple Mac in a marketing company where I was scanning things in and getting them into layouts and so on. So anyway, so I thought I'd just dwell a little bit on just that era of what was kind of interesting me. And I was very much into the fine arts as well, painting, sculpting, and just the act of making. I still am like that.
Yep.
But then sort of being encouraged rather to actually go into the workplace very early on, not even do A-levels.
Okay.
But I felt somehow that I needed to learn and be taught from the masters of the craft. So going into university, had some amazing professors, on typography, and I went to Bath, and we weren't allowed to touch a computer for like a year and a half.
Okay.
It was all hand-drawn 8-point Helvetica type,
Yep.
And so I love that.
Yep.
It slowed you down, it made you think, and so on. And then, of course, the internet came along and just blew everything out. No one really knew what it was. It was called new media. So I started teaching myself. And then, long story short, me and my mates at uni entered various competitions. And this one particular competition for the Royal Society of Arts was design the user interface for in-flight entertainment. And so we went down to Bristol Airport, got a bunch of airplane seats, cut holes in it, put the computer in, and shipped it all to London for the presentation. Long story short, Simon Waterfall was one of the judges. We won it. He offered us a job.
Yeah.
And that was my great first job at Deep End,
Yeah, nice.
back in sort of 1998, 99, sometime like that. And then it's just been a rocket ship. And people go, "Oh, how did you plot your career?" I didn't.
Yeah.
I really didn't. And you can probably tell. I just like making stuff and doing things with other like-minded people
Yeah.
and seeing where it sort of takes me. But you know, um, you're looking for sort of guidance. Where should I go? What should I do? Your different life stages require different things. So, and then of course you can just look on LinkedIn where I've been. Um, but yeah, so started off in the agency world.
Yep.
But then there was always a yearning to get closer to a brand, to a product, to a business. And after about 8 years at Poke, Skype came along.
Yep.
And this was at Skype when we just released video calling on a PC.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't even on a Mac or any other thing. So really early. And
Yep.
I came in as creative director with a team, and I'd never managed people before. And I was way out of my depth, and I made basically every mistake in the book. So it's been a real baptism of, I was put into a job of incompetence. And
Yeah.
I'm amazed that I didn't, get booted out. So I wouldn't advise that.
Yeah. It's an interesting time though, because that was
Yeah.
probably at a time whereby people were saying video calls. No, who's going to want to have a call like through the internet? Like, why would
Yeah.
people want to do that?
Yeah. Well, there'd always been that kind of Jetsons like type of the future, which is, in films we're showing it all the time. So there was always that pent up, this is what the future's going to be. But no one had really experienced it. People had tried, but they were notoriously complex to set up. You had to open up firewall ports here, there, and Apple had tried this, and Microsoft had tried, and everyone was like, it's just so much of a faff. And then Skype came along, and it literally was plug in, you don't have to do anything,
Yeah.
connect with the other, and it worked. It was like magic. So, of course, saying that you worked at Skype, people were like, oh, wow, you're some sort of celebrity.
Yeah.
So it was probably one of my favorite places to work in my career, and it was a rocket ship, and we'd sort of inadvertently cracked the viral coefficient,
Yeah.
which is, for every one person, they bring in another person. It was almost like one. It
Yeah.
was amazing. So you couldn't Skype alone. So it was double digits. And we remember just seeing like 1 million, a week being added to the registration. And it was sort of just took off.
Yeah.
You didn't really have to do anything. It was just there. But then it was, okay, well, now we've got to connect up all the other endpoints, on all the other types of devices, and new devices were coming out, smartphones were coming out, front-facing cameras. And then, of course, the iPhone came out, and it wasn't ready in version 1, as everyone remembers, but version 2, the 3G one, I remember very distinctly taking my first Skype call when I was in New York. And the quality was insane. Like they were standing right next to me, and the amazing engineers there who developed the codecs that are still in use today.
Yeah.
Was incredible. But then you rapidly discover that the battery life of the iPhone lasted about 20 minutes when you're running Skype. So it's like, okay, that didn't scale. So you getting much closer to the technical side of things was probably what I learned most from being at Skype, and then it's been sort of in-house ever since then.
Nice. And going from something that is quite creative, you sound like you're a hands-on person, right? You like doing, creating, making, into a leadership role.
Yeah.
Right. It's a big change, right? People
yeah.
don't necessarily realize sometimes the transition that you need to make to go from a doer to a strategist or a people leader.
Yeah. I always like getting in the kitchen, but not like, hey, I need to be head chef or anything like that. It's not like that. It's just more being around people and talking through things and developing that common language of taste and how you analyze things. And if you need me to sweep the floor, I'll do that. I still do that now, even in a so-called leadership position. So I try and keep a little bit of the hands-on, but in a way more supportive role. So yeah, just kind of the making aspect is always there. And I don't know whether, as a true designer, you ever really give that up.
Yeah. Okay.
But it's fair to say that you do get a bit rusty on certain tools, and, folks coming in, they know all the shortcuts and they can produce things much quicker. And I'm, still detaching instances in doing all that kind of
Yep.
stuff that winds everyone up. But you learn, and I'm asking, "Hey, show me how you did that. That's cool." So I feel like there's a transition, but the the most important thing is actually it's not a transition of the making side of it. It's more of a transition in your mindset.
Okay.
And in simple terms, I think of it like this, and this is from my own experience, but I do see it as a pattern.
Hmm.
Um, in your 20s and so on, you're really kind of learning the tools, learning the craft, getting proficient. And so a lot of it's about you and your skills, and then how you operate within the team, and then you're thinking about the business. Whereas you get into a leadership position, it's completely inverted. You're just constantly thinking about the business, and then the team, and then you.
Yeah.
And it's that flip, and it happens quite suddenly. It's not always a gentle transition, or at least it wasn't for me.
Mm.
So I try and help people understand as they're going through their career, this is how you're going to have to start thinking. Because if you're not prepared, then it can feel really sudden. And you hear a lot of designers who make that, say, switch from IC to manager. Oh, I don't like this,
Yeah.
because they haven't been prepped for what it will feel like.
There's not like a management training school for designers that I see, right? It's most of the time you just get put into it.
Exactly. And I did.
Yeah.
And so, I remember getting to Skype, and I don't know, I had half a dozen people reporting to me, and that all felt good. And my ego was crazy high. I thought, wow,
Yeah.
this guy. And then it comes to performance reviews. What's a performance review?
Yeah.
Honestly, I'd never done it. I'd never done it in agency. It was like the performance review was, "Happy Christmas, good year, here's a couple of grand. On your
Yeah.
merry way."
Yeah.
It was like that.
Yeah. So how did you learn?
Well,
'Cause you didn't have ChatGPT to go and ask you to create a performance review.
certainly didn't. I think very quickly it became apparent to my team very quickly that, hey, he's never done this before. So I try and be honest with people and go,
Yeah.
I've never done it before. I'm really sorry, but we'll go through this together, because it's not actually that complicated.
Mm.
And I think I'm fairly good at observing people and understanding what makes them tick and where they get their energy from and so on. So I think I had that there, and I also had opinions on what aesthetics, what good looks like. So I was able to kind of coach in that. So you kind of have a few of those things, but it wasn't so structured. So, okay, what have they got to work on? What's their growth plan and so on? How have they done previously? I'm like, oh man, I haven't taken any notes in one-to-one meetings or anything like this. I thought, I've got all this memory that I have to now pour out, and was it right? And I think just by sharing observations, getting them to reflect, it became very apparent. It's like, that's the key, is it's not me that has to own their career.
Hmm.
They have to.
Yeah.
So I tended to then start developing a kind of leading by asking questions, which is effectively coaching,
Yeah.
right? And people go, oh, what's the difference between a mentor and a coach? They often get kind of blended together. And my simple mind is like, well, a mentor comes from a place of experience. And so therefore, if we're having a conversation, my mentor mind would go, okay, based on what you've told me, this is what I would do.
Hmm.
But a coach would then flip that round and go, okay, based on this, what will you do?
Yeah.
Because then the accountability lies with you, and it's much more empowering. Because if you do the thing that I told you to do and it doesn't work, then it's like, oh, now I'm accountable.
Yeah. Okay.
Not that I'm shying away from accountability, because I mean, we'll probably get onto that, but it's very important that that word, empower people
Yep.
to make those decisions in a safe space, so they don't deliberately fail.
Yeah.
Because this whole notion of failing, I don't really like, to be
Okay.
honest. I don't like to fail.
Yeah.
So I don't go out to fail. And
Yeah.
I don't think many other people do go out to fail, but it
No.
puts an interesting lens on it. And I'm saying this because it's in the context of my own failure.
Yeah.
Um, so you're looking at it and you go, okay, how can I learn the fastest? That's more, and if I fail along the way, then that's fine. So yes, I get the expression "fail fast," but it puts it in the negative.
Yeah, okay.
Learning's more in the positive.
So how would you frame it then?
Learn
Learn
fast.
fast.
Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so that's what I did. Or I tried to
Yeah.
learn fast. And we had great people in the people department who were like, okay, we see you're struggling, and we had really good coaching at Scope on being a good manager. Uh, and I think honestly, it's a constant voyage of learning being a manager because you're dealing with people and variables like you've never had before. If you think that, designing a product has lots of variables,
Yeah.
that's nothing compared to dealing with people, and dealing with teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you had mentors and coaches throughout your career
I
yourself?
have.
And
I've had the fortunate, yeah. I mean, I've worked with amazing people, and they've been very patient with me and sharing their wisdom. Um, I've only ever had one professional
yeah,
coach, and she was amazing. And that was the first time I ever had that was as a Skyscanner, and that was as a result of talking to my mentor, who was the CEO at the time. And he's like, "Have you ever had a coach?" No. What does a coach do? It was sort of at that time where coaching was becoming a more of a
thing.
commonplace
Yeah.
thing, and it was very, very helpful because she called me out.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I was kind of looking for coaches like a advice, like a mentor, but no,
Yeah.
and that's where I learned the difference between
So
mentoring and,
gonna
and
ask you some
coaching.
tough questions. You're
Yeah,
gonna have to come up with the answers.
yeah, and I remember when we were doing this sort of, I chatted to quite a few different coaches because you wanted to get the right mix. And the question that she asked me, which I thought, oh, that's interesting. She could sense that I was getting quite overwhelmed and so on with everything that I was doing. And she said, well, when was the last time you cried in front of someone? It's like, oh, that's going to be interesting.
Mm.
So she's like, well, I'm going to push you and you might end up breaking. I was like, okay, that just kind of, that's probably what I need
Mm.
actually, just to take me to the edge
Yeah.
and go, okay, now I know where my limits are and so on. And then we can start actually having a constructive dialogue on how to do that. So yeah, you have these moments in time, and I could take you to the place where she
Yeah.
said it, and and so on. So, and then we had, I don't know, 6 months of constant thing, and she was great. Yeah,
And would you say for perhaps more junior people coming up in the design market and design world,
yeah.
would you say a mentor is a better place to start or a coach? Because if they don't have the experience, can they really have it coached out of them?
We're in a interesting time, aren't
Mm.
we?
Yeah.
Where so much information and advice is readily available, and even can be created in a moment with
Yeah.
AI. Um, but I still think there are some fundamentals that get very easily overlooked. And I think you still need to have real deep human connection with your fellow human beings,
Yeah.
um, where you can share. And because I would get concerned if you start defaulting to AI for advice and so on. It's very cold,
People
it's
are though.
soulless, and then they are because it's so convenient.
Kind of scary.
But what you get is homogenization.
Hmm.
People think the same, so you have to use it sparingly. And I think of it as if a computer's like an electric bike for the mind,
Hmm.
sorry, a bike for the
Yeah.
mind, like Steve Jobs said,
Yeah.
then a computer with AI is like an electric bike for the
Yeah.
mind. You just get up and going so much quicker, but then it plateaus rapidly, I think. And you're still on your own, so you've still got to use your mental faculties that are God-given gift,
Yeah.
of reason. And so when you're young, when I was young, you have a really good dollop of naivety,
Yeah.
which is helpful because you don't know what risks you sort of have an idea, but you don't really know the magnitude of the risk, and so it liberates you.
Yeah.
The older you get, the more perhaps risk averse. So the reason why I'm saying this is I don't. necessarily know what advice I would give from a mentorship point of view because we've never been in this space before with AI. So it's okay. But I still think it will come down to the fundamentals. Can you actually think?
Yeah.
Can you dissect? Can you analyze? Because that's the job, right?
Yep.
And if you're outsourcing that to machine, that's dangerous, I think.
Yeah.
So with our kids at home, if they're going to start using AI for homework, it's like, okay, then you're going to start marking the AI
Yeah.
because you just
Interesting.
do it in a different way.
Yeah.
And the same at work. It's like I can get Notion, I can get all these different tools to spit me out a plan, but then really interrogate that plan and modify it and so on. But so many people just take that and then pass it on.
Yeah.
And you go, nope. And maybe I'm getting old, but I want people to properly think
Yeah.
deeply still. So I'm still keep banging that drum from a mentorship perspective.
Nice.
And then coaching, I think anyone can do because you just ask questions.
Yeah.
And there's a great book, Leading by Asking Questions,
Yeah.
which is very, very helpful. Yeah.
Nice. And you've obviously worked in some great organizations, experienced some rapid growth, as we've spoken about a moment ago. What have you seen companies get wrong from a design perspective when they're going through that type of growth? Because I know we're not talking about necessarily failure, we're talking about learning. So
Yeah.
where can companies learn from things that have happened that you've seen?
Well, designers, we have an ideal sense of how design should be run. And I think the first thing to do is, as a designer, you got to know where other people are coming from. And so one of the things I think is interesting right now, based on I've pretty much only worked at founder-led startups, is ask the question to the leadership, when was their kind of conversion moment to design?
Yeah.
When did they realize, oh, that's the power of what design can do? And that's a very telling question and answer. Yeah, okay, I now know where they're at, right? Because it could be just very aesthetic. It could be really deep and meaningful problem solving. It could be all sorts of different things. But you then start to gauge where they're at in how they think about design, how it should be organized and so on. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is where design sits in an organization can be very critical. And often, yeah, we want design at the top seat at the table, but that's not always the best place, to be honest, I've learned.
Why?
Because you have to put yourself in the CEO's shoes. And certain CEOs will have a very strong kind of bias to a particular kind of function, right? Because that's their happy place. Others will know what design can do, but have no idea how to actually put it into practice. So therefore, that's why I'm there. Others will have a very strong idea on how to practice it, and therefore you have different kind of conversations. So it's an interesting one because not all businesses are created equal. The sectors have different biases, and having worked across different sectors, I think that's one of the eye-opening things. There's not a single playbook. So you got to go in and seek to understand where they're coming from, where the design is in their mindset. Why do you want me here? That's a good question.
Yeah.
Often it's, I just want you to make things look good. And you go, okay, well, that's a start, right? Sometimes you just, okay, well, that's what we can do. And that rapidly translates into, well, we can make ideas tangible. And that's then prototyping. So I have a saying, which is, if a picture paints 1,000 words, a prototype saves 1,000 meetings, because you can actually get and experience it. And of course, now a prototype is so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane. We can talk about that in a bit later.
Yeah.
So you can get something very tangible very quickly. And even sometimes that tangible thing can often be put into a test, put into production. So the whole thing is kind of collapsing. But then you come back down to fundamentals again.
Yeah.
What's the problem it's solving? How well is it solving that problem? It's not just organizing complexity, it's removing it. What's the outcome that you're looking for? It still comes down to those fundamental things as a design, I say, as a problem-solving process that often design is the one championing in a business,
Mm.
along with engineering and product. So I think those three functions are the most kind of critical, and it's probably data in that as well
Yeah.
these days. So the quad is a really good structure to put in place and have really good relationships with your peer group in that space, no matter where they kind of sit in the organization.
Mhm.
So I really do try and seek to pull those four together.
And how do you do that?
Well, I start by asking questions.
Yeah.
What are their goals? What are their motives? Start to understand what do they think about design, etc. Where have they been burned in the past? Because often they've got some stories, either a design team or a design leader or something that's like, oh, wow me up. And so you got to understand where the buttons are
Yeah, okay.
and where not, or where to have a tough conversation. But then you've rapidly got to quickly come and go, this is how I see it. This is how I think we are in the business right now. And this is the first stage that I'll take. If you give them the whole playbook, they want to go right there straight away, but you just can't. You can get there quite quickly,
Yeah.
but you've obviously got to think of the composition of the team, think of the seniority of the team, think of the skills that you need to bring in. What are they trying to achieve? So I have those conversations, and then it's like, okay, if you're hiring X amount of engineers, we're going to have this kind of surface area. Okay. Because often engineering go first.
Yeah.
Because they've got to do the most amount of hiring. So you have that as a spidey sense of, okay, this is the magnitude of what we got to go build. And then product and design and data often kind of match a sort of a loose ratio and who's got to go where. So I just have those open conversations and try and write the thinking down as much as possible. Share those documents for comment, and have those artifacts. But it still comes down to actually talking to people
Yeah.
and understanding where they're coming from. As a leader, they're expecting you to lead. So you have to be decisive, but you look at the different composition of the leadership team, your peer group, and some will be extremely decisive and can actually make a decision very, very quickly with very little data. Others will take a little bit longer. I'm probably on this kind of, I'll take a bit longer because I want to understand. It's not about perfection over, doing. It's more just a case, I want to have confidence in the decision that I'm making. So yeah, I can procrastinate, and I know that's a weakness of mine.
Has it backfired on you before
Oh
in
yeah,
businesses?
yeah. I mean, even now, I would say, I'm working at a company called Tem Energy, which is a wonderful company, and had a good chat with one of the founders and the CEO, and I've been working there now for about, in total, 40 odd days.
Yep.
And he's like, okay, right, let's see some action then, in terms of how you want to structure the team. And I'm going, yeah, I know. The reason why I'm procrastinating because I don't know whether I'm going to be in long term, and can I see them through? Because you don't want to start making decisions and then exit,
Yeah.
So procrastination I try and use as a strength, but I know that if you ask my wife, yeah, I can procrastinate. But I think that's just, I like to understand it comprehensively enough, not everything, but enough to be confident in the decision. So I think it comes back down to, I suppose, a bit of my style, which is I'm open about how I think and what you can expect from me, because I think that's probably one of the most important things that you can try and do as a leader, or as anyone really, is what are you getting?
Yeah.
Just be honest. I don't like doing that. I want to do this. Okay. What gives me energy? What doesn't? Yeah, okay, great. Now I know how to shape it.
Yeah.
Okay, you have to do a bit of that because you have to do stuff that you don't always like doing, but how can you use your skills and apply them to the thing that you don't like doing to make it a bit more enjoyable? So I tend to try and use my design skills to visualize what I'm trying to solve.
Yeah.
Because I'm a visual thinker. And I think that's partly why I procrastinate
Yeah.
is because if I haven't got a real strong mental model, a visual model in my mind, I don't feel like I've fully grasped it.
Mm.
If I can't draw it,
Yeah.
so that's why I'm constantly reaching for the paper to
Yeah.
draw it. But that helps people, right? Because we're all, you know, we need all those different facets to help explain quite complex things sometimes. There's not just the written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You talked about the quadrant of different disciplines, so product design, software engineering, and data, or it
Yeah.
could be
Could be
data sort of merged in there.
marketing, could be ops, all these different functions.
I
Yeah.
see a lot of the lines being blurred these days between these. So,
Yeah.
like, what's your opinion on merging this quadrant together almost, which I
Yeah.
see in some organizations where it all sits under one umbrella?
Yeah. Often it happens more organically. I think if you start forcing it, then you tend to get a bit of organ rejection. The bottom line is that people are in certain functions because they have a preference for it. And preference, competence follows preference.
Yeah.
As a product manager, you probably have a general preference for being super organized and want to help people and orchestrate and so on. But you also have a strong sense of, I want to make things that solve problems. Okay, so there's an overlap there with design and engineering. So you always had that overlap as what we call product people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're a product person. So you still have those things in a root, but it is starting to overlap. But some people just don't have that overlap. They go, no, I want to stay here. How do you force people over that? I think to think of it as you can nudge and encourage. A classic one is like design owning more of the front end now, right? Because you kind of can.
Yep.
But then you've got to be checks and balances. It's like, okay, well, you might be able to push something to production and so on, but can I verify that that's good quality code? No, I can't.
No,
So you
yeah.
still need the deep expertise and experience, but you probably need less of it in some ways because you can have people that are just doing those things on a daily basis. But I think it's still people building, collaborating together, trusting each other. It's the classic kind of 5 dysfunctions of a team. Do they trust each other and so on? Can you have those open conversations? So you try and encourage that. And we're literally kind of going through those sort of process enhancements now at Tim.
Yeah.
We've just crossed 100 people in the business.
Nice.
And those are often the sort of the tipping points where it was working and all of a sudden it breaks.
Yep.
And that's normal.
Yep.
Oh no, now we got to fix it again. And so I kind of like those kind of things. I've got a love-hate relationship with it because it's like, we just fixed it. Now it's broken again. We got to rev it.
Gives you something to do.
Yeah, your job security, I suppose. But yeah, having gone through those various stages, you do see certain patterns, and that's kind of quite natural human behavior. Because one thing I kind of learnt, I can't remember where I heard it from, or maybe I dreamt it. I wouldn't claim any originality here, but relationships are so fundamental in business, in any company, that if this is me and here's my relationship to my peer group, that's 4 relationships, right? Me to them. But a really tight team will understand their relationships to each other.
Yeah.
So how many is that?
Yeah, okay.
That's quite a lot of relationships. You add one more. Ooh, that's like almost an exponential, another one. And they, how many relationships can you hold in your head when you really do understand other people's relationships to each other? And then you naturally just kind of have this point in time where you go, okay, I can't keep track of everything.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of core startup team, right? Of about, say, 30 odd, where everyone knows each other quite intimately. And that's, several hundred relationships if you got to think about it.
Yeah.
So, of course, some people love that and they love that intimacy. And I totally get that. I mean, I still kind of crave that kind of intimacy as well. But a business is going to scale. And some people then go, they try and keep hold of wanting to know everything all the time and know everyone all the time. but you just can't.
Yeah.
So you have to let go at some point. And there's these kind of tipping points at also 65, and then again at sort of 125. And then when you're after like 250 to 500, I know it's a bit arbitrary, but there are tipping points just slightly in there. And then after 500, you're kind of in a replicable kind of playbook because you've got the ways in which you structure and scale. But you go, that's probably a bit of an old school way of looking at it, right? Because you can do more with less in some ways with AI, and I hate that expression, actually, do more with less. But you can certainly get up and running quicker with AI, and you can put workflows together.
Yep.
But then it's those workflows that have to be managed and maintained, and that still needs humans to do that. So you can automate, but you still got to scale because processes get more convoluted, and especially if you go into new markets, there are different processes, got to create new workflows. So you're still going to have to scale, and you've still got people that have to build it. But I try and keep things very lean.
Yeah. Okay.
It's always much better to be in want of more than to have surplus.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is that what
meandering?
I was going to say, is that what you've always done though with building your teams? Have you tried to keep things relatively lean?
Yeah, and I kind of learned a little bit the hard way at Skype, which is I went in and had almost everything fully staffed.
Yeah.
And then without kind of realizing it, you had a team of like 50 odd people. And then they're like, okay, so what am I doing next week? And I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
And
just hard to keep track of. Was that the
just
biggest
so hard
negative?
just so hard to keep track of. And I'd signed a contract because I was so concerned about missing deadlines and so on. And I suppose that's still a thing that I still have to learn, which is I say yes.
Yeah. Okay. So learning to say no.
Well, it's not necessarily learning to say no.
Or not.
On certain things, learning to say no, that's a really bad idea. Don't do that. That's rarer than what I would say is not now. We're focused on this.
Okay. Yeah.
Which is a slightly softer way, because it's probably a legitimate thing that we should be doing, but you can't do it all. So it's like, okay, now it's about learning how to make the trade-offs. You're either going to get this or this. Here's the resources. And you find yourself making those trade-offs as a leader. It's almost like your daily muscle that you're using. Not that, this. And helping guide. But you want them to self-govern as well. Here's the goal. Okay, now you make the trade-off. What would you... Again, you slip into the coach. They go, okay, based on that, we'll do this. Good. Now you're owning it. So, yeah, I have been burned by over-hiring. And I learned the lesson the hard way. So I keep it in scarcity. Because you're looking at a cost per head, right, in a business. Like how much is those people actually earning for the business? And but now you're seeing the cost per head getting way more scrutinized. And so it's a good metric to keep track of. Like, are they actually delivering, on an aggregate? So yeah.
And how do you, talking of metrics, how do you sort of then put together the metrics to look at the value creation of design? Because it's a big thing that people always look at and go, oh, sometimes the CEO goes, I don't know, what's the value of UX design in my organization? So is there a way that you have a secret sauce?
Oh, I wish.
Sorry.
No. It's a fundamental thing that keeps coming up. But it's so similar to how product management gets evaluated, which is what is the thing that you're shipping? And what is the effect of it? So there's no one single metric. You're looking at a whole bunch of things. So the way in which I try and sort of strata it up is there's the team operations, right? How efficient are you? Are you delivering, hitting deadlines, and so on? That's all kind of sanity kind of metrics to just make sure that you're doing what you said you would do, basically. And then it's like, okay, based on that, how do we know what we're producing is actually making a difference? So I tend to produce a kind of a lever map. Like if we're going to introduce design standards, right?
Hmm.
Well, what will that actually then do, and what's the proxy metric that will then do to hit revenue?
Yeah.
Because it's not going to be like design standards, boom, revenue. Doesn't work like that. There are proxies inside that. So okay, well, engineering have standards,
Hmm.
code reviews. Why do they have that? Well, because there should be a direct correlation between quality of code and incidents
Yep.
or bugs, or
Yep.
same as design. So you kind of, well, there's overlaps in product, there's overlaps in design, there's overlap in data. Well, can we make informed decisions on poor data? No, we can't. So the way in which those four functions is like the glue and the grease. You've
Yep.
got to kind of agree together what are the metrics, the KPIs that are worth measuring, that actually tell us something
Yep.
is going to happen or has happened that we like or dislike.
Okay.
It's not that complicated when you explain it like that, but it's a complicated process of unpicking what is worth measuring in a certain business.
Yeah.
Um,
That's the thing. I think most people don't know what to measure.
yeah, yeah, and I've struggled sometimes and go, hmm, well, what should I measure here? The beauty of it is right now is you can go to GPT and go, based on all these things, give me some ideas, and that's a good, electric
It's a
bike for
good
the mind.
start point,
You
isn't
kind of
it?
go, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that one. Oh yeah, I could do it like that.
Yeah.
But then you're on your own again. You go, okay, now let's bring that to the table and kind of look at it. How will we get the data that informs that? I was chatting to a good friend of mine the other 2 days ago, and he'd done an interesting thing. His name's uh, Noel Lyons, and
Hmm.
he's the chief design officer at NatWest now.
Yep.
And sorry, Niall, if this is, but he was going, hey, I just took all of the Figma logs and saw what I could kind of maybe create from it. And I think I might be onto something, but I'm not sure.
Mm.
And so we had a really good chat. And oh, that's an interesting thing. Okay, I'll take my logs and see what I get from it. Is it worth the information? Because you've got data in abundance.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're just kind of sifting through and you might find a gem. So I think quant data is helpful. It tells you what is going on,
Yeah.
but it doesn't tell you why.
No.
That's when you need the qual.
Yeah.
It's a classic adage, but the older I get, the more I believe in that. You got to have that as the train won't run unless you have quant and qual.
Yeah.
And I think in a game now where brands and companies that want to have a bit more of a relationship with their customer, you've got to understand what makes the customer tick, and you don't really get that from quant. You get
Yeah.
that from personal engagement. And understanding what they're trying to accomplish. So I'm a big believer in a lot of things in business start from fundamental research.
Yeah. And why do you think then most organizations, in my opinion, don't do that
Because they're
research?
impatient, and they're afraid of finding out something they don't want to know.
Yeah. Okay.
Because the very nature of research is you don't know. So
Yeah.
you don't know what you're going to get back.
So the ego telling someone who's a business owner, telling them this is a shitty idea, don't do it.
Yeah, but you have to understand why something is a bad idea.
Yeah.
So you have to kind of go out and see what happens. Then there is, of course, well, you only ask 5 people, and then you get into the kind of statistical
Yeah.
side of things. And so you have to kind of teach a little bit. You're looking for patterns. You're looking for these things. So I think there's people that have a very strong hunch, and you're constantly balancing these things because, I mean, I hate focus groups and all that stuff. That it's more just quiet observation, listening, watching them perform tasks. That tells you a lot,
Hmm.
right? You're not necessarily by asking questions, actually. It's just by observing, look at this task, what you're trying to accomplish, and so on, that you get these, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
And give one example, Alexa, wonderful product designer, researcher at Tem Energy, tracks all the kind of insights And you go, okay, she's got, I don't know how many hundred insights. How many of those actually got into the product development life cycle and actually got done?
Yeah.
Great metric, right? Because if you're doing research and none of that gets into like, what in the world are we doing?
Yeah.
So we go, okay, there's your score. We got to see these things happening, coming through into the product. You can't do it all,
Yeah.
but that one's more critical than that one. How do you then score it? So yeah, we're looking at the rice score right now, as using that. I know Intercom and others use those. So you're looking at different models. Is this going to be a better model than that one, or do we have to invent our own? Very quickly, it can get convoluted on how to assess the data because some of it's just arbitrary scoring
Yeah.
internally just to give ourselves a bit of a steer. And it's a bit like that with engineering, right?
Mm.
Engineering very easy can bamboozle an organization, and people go, okay, I'm not going to talk about it because you're talking stuff I don't understand. So they kind of get left alone.
Yeah. Most of the time. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 4 nines reliability. Oh yeah, well, cool. Yeah. But it's an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
So why 4 nines? Why not 3? Why not 2? What I don't know what that,
Yeah.
but
What does it mean?
it's a number, right?
Yeah.
And they decide, okay, that's the thing that we're going to do. Same with design.
Yeah.
But we should see if this got shipped, what metric actually fundamentally changed. Was it adoption? Was it activation? And you've got all these different things. How much did it increase retention and so on? So they're just fundamental metrics. You don't always know.
Yeah.
Sometimes you ship something, it works. Sometimes you don't. That's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
You're just mitigating risk as much as you possibly can.
Yeah. And looking at as many different types of data points and different types of metrics to help balance the
Exactly.
scale.
Yeah, exactly. That's what makes it enjoyable. You're uncovering things all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we spoke a little bit, or touched upon tooling, and you mentioned the fact that you can create a prototype in, well, minutes, seconds, depending on what tools you're using. As someone who is quite old school in terms of your background, you talked about typography, a bit of a dying art these days, I feel, for most people. Most people don't know much about typography in the design world. How do you feel about all of the design tools that are coming through that you can just do these things quickly? Is it something that you cherish and you love using them, or are they killing the industry?
I think it comes back to the point of like, if you're divesting yourself of thinking and offloading that to a machine, I'm very wary of that.
Yeah.
But rapid prototyping is about learning,
Mm-hmm.
right? The issue with, there's tons of these different prototyping tools. They do things in different ways. You get up to speed to a certain point, and then you get into a prompting black hole, and then it just doesn't do what you can't seem to. It plateaus very quickly, and then you can't seem to prompt your way out of it. And you go, oh, I'm just going to start again. And then you kind of look at it and go, how long have I spent doing this? I could have probably done it by now.
Yeah.
And that's a pattern that we see everywhere. Everyone's okay. But then sometimes, because it's probabilistic, not deterministic, you don't always know what you're going to get. So we're trying to create a probabilistic model be deterministic, because as designers, we're used to being very deterministic in shaping the thing. So in my ideal, I would want to have a product that has the prompt, and that's kind of like your art director, your UI, giving instructions to a designer.
Yeah.
You then have the canvas that you can actually use like Figma, where you can feel it and stretch it and be direct manipulation as much as possible. Then you've got the fine-tuning controls,
Yep.
which you would traditionally have. And then you've got the code.
Okay.
And you need to have all of them, and they all need to work across each other. But at the moment, it's just like it's still linear. It doesn't flow back into the design tool. People go, oh, why does it have to do that? Well, it does, because as a designer, I need to feel it. I need to be able to tweak it and test it with my hands as much as I possibly, not tell it. It's just weird.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, maybe I'm a bit old school. And then typography is such a thing that you've got such fine tune controls now, which is great in software development, that I think as you progress in your career, you s- if you're really concerned about the quality of the thing that you put out, you naturally get very interested in
Mhm.
how the alphanumeric presentation is in the UI,
Yeah.
um, how things are spaced and how things are laid out. The visual hierarchy is so critical for you to be able to understand things. And so I find myself teaching that quite a bit, um, and sort of showing examples of why that's, not that way, this way. Oh, yeah, because you can just change things around. So AI has a kind of I got a love-hate relationship with it.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like whack-a-mole. You just can't keep up.
Yeah.
It's like 1 minute, one tool can't do it. The next minute, another tool over here can do it. And then that one then can do it. And you go, which one am I going to invest in? Sorry, but there's no magic formula here. It's like you got to kind of just test them all. And
Look
so
at
I have
what's
like three
best
or
for you.
four, same prompt,
Yeah.
bosh, bosh, bosh. And you go, how much are we spending on tools here?
Yeah.
How much is costing to run those things from an engine? You go,
Gets all very expensive. Suddenly you realize that actually replacing a person with all of these tools is not as cheap as people make out.
yeah.
Yeah.
You go, so you get this sort of delta happening where you go, okay, well, one person using all these tools because you don't know what you're going to get, versus actually just hiring a person then who's a really good person who can actually just get it done.
Yeah.
Weigh it up.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm pessimistic and I'm optimistic, and it's a strange place right now. But you probably hear this from absolutely everyone.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's good to talk about it.
I think a lot of people are in this sort of in between stage at the moment. They're not quite sure what to think, and I think we're still early on into sort of venturing into these sort of things. And
In the mainstream, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
certainly,
I've been using it at work since really GPT came out, and that
yeah,
was the kind of the first kind of mainstream. Oh wow! And then what you see is people when a new tech comes out, you see the current patterns being applied to it. So what I mean by that is people are so used to doing Google searches that effectively they were just using GPT to do searches. So you go from the familiar to the new, and then you start pushing and going, what can this do? And then of course, with the internet is that everyone's then sharing what they can and can't do. And there's so many charlatans out there, in my
yeah,
opinion. Like, yeah, I did this and I did this. And then you go, yeah, actually show me how. And then, don't worry about that. And you go, you can't really do it, can you?
yeah,
You try and do it. And then there are some people that genuinely have set up amazing workflows. Wow, that's really impressive. Um, I don't know how they can scale. I don't know, because I think workflows have to be constantly maintained
yeah,
as more complexity comes in. So, um, yeah, it's an interesting time in the family as well.
yeah,
We're going on a car journey, and I'll end up speaking to GPT to um, settle a debate,
yeah,
or to find out. And so I I find myself going on a walk
yeah,
talking to GPT
yeah.
as a sort of bouncing idea.
Just an
Not even
idea
GPT,
flow.
even Claude.
Could be any.
I'm using GPT at the moment probably because there's a strange personification that comes with AI, and there's a relationship that starts building. That scares me a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, what's going on here? But everyone prefers a different way of information being presented to them, especially in the audio.
mm,
So yeah, having different tone, timbre, speed, people assimilate things in different ways. So there's one particular voice that happens to just, the other voices could explain it exactly the same way, but it's just the way in which it's dished up.
resonates to you.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
helps me understand it more.
yeah,
And I think that's a really interesting space. And it's a bit like that when you're giving feedback to another designer. I could give feedback exactly the same way as another person, but the way in which you express it suddenly clicks.
yeah,
And so, yeah, how do you convey those through the written means? We're so multi-dimensional in terms of how information is delivered to us. Um, a lot of the time we're doing Loom videos
Yeah.
because you need all those different aspects. Like there's the person's face, you can hear their voice, you can see what they're doing,
Yeah.
and those become really powerful.
Definitely.
But then you got to watch it.
Yeah.
So it's like double speed. So it's fascinating time, all the different mixed modalities that we're using. But I have a strong bias to being in an office with people.
Yeah. Do you think it's just helpful seeing in front of someone, seeing the whites of their eyes, seeing
Yep.
that they're human?
Yep.
That simple thing.
You feed off the energy as
Yeah.
well. It becomes less. So much of the way in which we interact with is dictated to us by the limitations of the tech.
Mm.
So you're right, maybe on a Google Meet or a Zoom, it's like you have to raise your hand, and then someone's saying something really interesting, and it's a fair, but it's also not how it would naturally happen in the room.
Yeah.
You're
Okay.
sort of reading people and going, okay, they're probably about to speak, or oh, I'll just start, and then you kind of use things. It flows more naturally, I think, than okay, you go first, then you. And then by the time it gets to you, if you're like third one with the hand up, you're like, well, the moment's kind of passed and it's not important. And that can be also a self-governing thing. So again, that's maybe where
Yeah.
where I prefer being with people, and I'm learning constantly how to do it remote, which has still come from Skype days.
Yeah.
So I look for the signals, a lot of the time, and I misinterpret signals as well. Some people have very stern, resting faces, and you think, "Have I said something?"
It's just how they are.
Yeah, and you don't know sometimes because
Just ask my wife. She's got that face. Are you angry? She's like, no, it's just how I look.
and because we're constantly craving these signals, right?
Yeah.
But when you're in person, you get to know very quickly that that's how their face is,
Mm.
when they're thinking or something. So
Yeah.
I'm very conscious of that when I'm on a call, that I don't want to give off the wrong signal. So if I agree, then I'll make it really obvious.
Yeah.
Anyway, these are just sort of the human stuff
Yeah.
that
It's important though.
is
Human
so
stuff
critical.
matters.
Yeah.
And every industry has its trends, and we've talked about. Well, I don't think AI is necessarily a trend, but it's a hot topic. But in the design world, what are the trends that you see at the moment that you don't think are that relevant?
Ooh, got me on that one. There's a lot of kind of people looking into the crystal ball and predicting the future.
Yeah.
That's fun to do. How helpful is it? I don't know. I tend to think of it as what's in the next sort of 3 to 6 months right in front of me that I've got to go deliver and get done, that keeps the lights on for the business and so on. So I'm more pragmatic. Sometimes you just look up and go, well, look at the future. I would suppose, I mean, having had a few conversations, well, actually a lot of conversations about where's this all going, you can take a very dystopian view of it.
Mm-hmm.
You can take a very optimistic view. I always look at it like this. Whenever there's a new piece of tech that comes along, there's always a trade-off. There's always something that you're going to be giving up. You go right back before, the written word. People were sharing history verbally
Yeah.
and constantly repeating it. So their memory was probably astronomically, phenomenally good. Writing it down was like, if you write it down, then my memory is going to start fading. Yeah, but the value of writing it down meant that there was a true artifact, right? A shared common understanding of something that actually happened. Okay, that's a good trade-off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you can go through all these things and you kind of go, well, look at the trade-offs we're now making.
Yeah.
It's probably not answering your question directly, but I do think that there's a moment go, what are we trading off here, guys?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because I'm really worried that
Has everyone figured that out yet? That's the thing.
no, because convenience is such a strong thing, right? It's like
So
Amazon.
plastic bags, take that for example, right?
Yeah. Amazon comes along, convenience, like, oh yeah, that's Maslow's hierarchy of needs right at the top.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's so convenient. I was like, yeah, but now you're missing out on certain experiences of discovery.
Yeah.
Because you just come to your door and so on. What am I giving up? Maybe, oh, maybe that was worth it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um,
We'll find out, won't we?
I don't. Yeah, but there's a difference between intelligence and wisdom. You
Yeah.
know, I think let's try and be more wise and learn from the past here about what are we trading off. So there we go. Yeah.
And having worked with a number of different founders and working in founder-led
Mm.
organizations, what would you suggest is the one question that founders should ask of their design leaders when coming into an organization?
I think it's very helpful for a founder to get a good sense of this person coming in on what they think and what they see without any kind of prior preconceptions on the business. Because what you get there is a very beginner mindset, and you spot things that those who have been in the weeds very, just don't see anymore. So I always try and keep the beginner mindset alive and go, look at it as if I'm looking at it for the first time. And you can spot so many different things. So write them down
Yeah.
and share that. That to me would be my advice is get someone who's okay, look at it, see what you can understand, and then play it back.
Yeah.
That's a very helpful thing for a founder to, oh, didn't see any of those things before.
Okay.
Because they're so in the weeds. So I found that that's very, very helpful. And then go, okay, out of those things, which one do you think of those things is really, going to burn the house down or really critical? And you start the conversation going that way.
Nice.
Keep it simple.
Yeah. Sometimes the best way in life, right? Keep it simple.
Well, I remember hearing that phrase from my grandfather, Second World War. Always remember to kiss.
Yeah. Yeah.
What? What are you saying? We got a kiss? Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah. It's a great one. I think.
Fundamentals again.
And final question for you today, Buzz. For any designers out there when they're looking for work, as someone who's hired many designers in their time, had teams of people, what are the things that designers can do to really elevate their skill set, to get in front of like the right people, or when they're in front of the right people, to showcase the work that they've done to land a job?
Yeah. It's a great question, and it is tough.
Mm.
I'm not going to say, oh, it's easy and so on. But what I do see is the same kind of case study over and over and over. Loads of post-it notes, loads of this and that. Yeah, just like I could just go through it and go, yeah, okay. What is it really telling me?
Hmm.
I read it, I look at it, and it's the same over and over. What I'm trying to cut through and go, what's the actual piece of invention here? What did you actually solve? Tell it to me in a very straightforward, simple way, in an elegant way. Tell me what effect it had on the business, and just leave it at that. And then I tend to ask and go, what were you most excited about in delivering that? What was the thing that you're most proud of? And then I can get really specific and then go, I'm really proud of that little tiny interaction that just made it a bit more special, or the way in which that was phrased that led to that. It meant that behind the office, all of that was removed. Case studies are notorious, but don't have tons of them. I tend to
Yeah.
think of as, what's the latest one, the most recent piece of work that you've done? Because I always look at it like that. I'm only as good as the last piece of work I've done.
Yeah.
And try and tailor it that's relevant for what you think is what the business needs. I've done this before. I remember going for it. Sort of folks invited me into this business to say, "Hey, do you want to come and head up this design team?" And I thought, "Oh, that's an interesting business. Oh, can you, when you come in, take us through a case study?" And I was like, "Oh man, I can't put a case study together." And I was like, "Okay, well, I'm gonna kind of just manipulate this one a little bit, make it kind of mobile first kind of stuff." And it kind of came in, they took it and they go, "Oh yeah, that's really impressive. But what's that relevant to us?"
Yeah.
I was like, you're dead right.
It's not. Yeah.
It's 30% relevant,
Yeah.
but it gives you a glimpse on how I think. But honestly, I don't have time to
Yeah.
prepare a big case study for you, and I'm not going to solve your business, but I have prepared this for you, and this is what I see about your business right
Hmm.
now. But I'm not going to solve it for you. I'm just going to tell you these things. And that was way more interesting and engaging. So it comes back to the point
Nice.
around the founders, the leadership should ask, because they'll do that with every other function.
Yeah.
Why not design?
Yeah, absolutely. It should
So
be. And I think, as you say, sometimes the biggest balance is the time. Like,
it's
you shouldn't have to go away and spend like
I
two
mean,
days putting something together.
yeah, there are so many great tools out there, though, for putting together great portfolios.
Hmm.
And in many ways, there's no excuse
Yeah.
now. You don't have to know how to code. Go on a framer.
Yeah.
You can do amazing stuff, and it looks really good. Then the next thing is, okay, it looks good. Can you lay it out, you know, and actually have some level of craft? So many designers just don't have that.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'm biased.
Which is amazing though, because that's the job, right? Is to,
And I've always maintained this, and we've had some fierce debates. Oh yeah, designers shouldn't have to know how to, do all the final pixel polish. And I'm like, well, then what are you doing to be calling yourself a designer? But I tend to look at it as full stack, right? You got to go through the classic kind of Jesse James Garrett kind of stack and go, what's the strategy? What's the scope? What's the structure? What's the skeleton? What's the surface?
mhm,
And you've got to be able to do the whole thing, in my opinion, because engineers do the whole full stack. But then you have preferences. Some will prefer the strategy, but they can still do the whole stack. Some will prefer the front end final fix, but they can still do the whole stack. So you got that's what I'm talking about, the whole composition of the team. You have preferences,
yeah,
and people, "Oh, I prefer over here. Okay, then I'll complement you with this."
mm,
And the variability of that is then they go, well, I don't like doing that anymore. I'm going to switch over here. And so you've got this constant mix, and you want to help foster that as well. So be really clear. I think it's really helpful to have a README file.
mhm,
This is what you get when you
yeah,
hire me. Um, Here's how I think. Here's my values. To write it down. It's okay.
yeah,
You know, because that's what interviewing is all about. You're you're mitigating risk.
yeah,
That's all it is from both sides.
yeah, yeah,
So I would much rather have a much shorter interview process and get working together and use probation period for both sides. Try before you buy.
yeah,
So often it's like, oh, I've got to get through probation, and then I'm okay, and then I can sit back.
yeah,
And I don't think like that. Um, so I suppose that's whirly advice.
yep,
Make it look good. Take your time. Don't have spelling mistakes. All those kind of
yeah,
fundamentals. Make sure the visuals look really good and you can really see the detail. Um, don't use crazy amounts of words explaining everything. Try and distill it down. You should be able to do that with AI. Come on.
yeah,
Make Look at it, get GPT to analyze it, whatever, whichever tool you want. Break it down into exec language. You can do those things, and then what I'm going to do is just kind of interrogate you on that work
yeah,
and see how much of it you did versus, and just be honest about it. Um, so two fundamental things really. If you're a person that can actually get things done, great. How, and then it's how you get those things done
mm,
in a team. If you can do those two things really well, you'll be absolutely fine.
yeah.
So again, fundamentals.
I love it.
Yeah.
Nice and simple. Buzz, thank you so much for talking to me today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. Time's flown by.
It has.
Didn't think I could talk that much. There
Oh,
we go.
there we go.
Just had the
We're
caffeine.
good.
I hope it'll be helpful for folks out there.
I think it will be.